This mother pushed her daughter under a car in order to blackmail her. What kind of hatred is it? She was so cruel to her daughter. It turns out that the three of them are all fraudsters. On this day, the three of them were eating at a restaurant, but her mother, Misu, caught a glimpse of the couple leaving. She watched them drink all the wine. She winked at her husband, Hante. He immediately understood. And that's how the scene began. After her daughter fell to the ground, the mother cried her heart out, and the father came forward to argue, because the other party had been drinking, so he must not dare to call the police. In that case, he had to settle the matter privately. Soon after, her daughter Ju-yoon was lying on the hospital bed with her legs wobbly. After successfully fooling the driver, the parents drove off happily. I could tell by the look on his face that he had gotten a lot of money. The daughter in the back seat also asked how much they lost. She said she wanted to buy a new cell phone. The mother said a new cell phone was too expensive. Both of them disagreed with her request. The daughter got angry. She's been working hard, but in the end, she didn't get a penny. So she got out of the car and said she was going to the police. The father knew she had the guts, so he compromised with her. She threw her crutches at him. The neck brace was thrown. Strutting back to the car. The next day, Ju-yoon showed off her new cell phone to her classmates. She even took a selfie with her classmates. While Ju-yoon was checking the photos, she saw the beggar behind her, and it was his father. He was lying on a cart pretending to be handicapped. Passers-by offered their love. The larger bills are just put away. At this time, he was stopped in his tracks. He looked up. It was his own daughter. He was so shocked that he turned his head in a hurry. Then he slipped into an alley. After checking around to see if no one was there, took off his begging props. He turned around and put it in a car. He took the money and got back in the car. Took off his wig to reveal his original face. At that moment, Ju-yoon got in the passenger seat. She angrily asked her father why he cheated her out of money in such a cheap way, but she didn't know the reason why he did it. He joined a scamming team. The boss was a woman named Fuji. Pretending to beg was just the first step. The next scene was the real beginning of the scam. The father was begging on the street as usual. Then two men came up to him and teased him. They tore off his hidden legs. The crowd looked down on the beggar with disdain. Why did he cheat when he had legs? People were taking pictures with their cell phones. At this time, there is a woman in the crowd. She came to the beggar, deliberately said he was begging to help homeless children and the elderly, then pretended to be touched. The onlookers were also moved. Suddenly to this beggar rose to admire the heart. Overnight, this matter is hot all over the internet. He became a great philanthropist. People were touched by his good deeds. He became famous overnight. He was even more popular than the most popular celebrities. He not only gained hearts and popularity, and a lot of huge donations. Just like that, they easily swindled over $10 billion. Under Fuji's brainwashing, he took on tens of billions of dollars in investment projects. He even invested all his family's savings, taking advantage of the heat to hype the situation. Successful enrichment of 70 billion after, Fuji got on a plane and fled, leaving him in the dark. He had to face the public's abuse in the law. After his father was arrested, in order for Ju-yoon to go to college, he didn't say a word about the Fuji who cheated him. He even asked Ju-yoon not to help him take revenge. Ju-yoon didn't listen to her father this time. She gave up college. She chose to work with her mother. Her mother introduced her to her partner, Hansen. Hansen took one look at Ju-yoon and said she was perfect for the job. In order to find the con woman Fuji, she worked as a flight attendant. She pretended to be a doctor and waitress. She also worked as a blind person and a cab driver. Gradually, she even forgot her real identity. It's as if she could only live in vengeance. She lost her true self. Luckily, all the hard work was worth it. On this day, Ju-yoon finally got a lead on Fuji, so she disguised herself as a salesman and came to her company. After seeing Fuji leave, she immediately went to the office. After confirming that no one was there, she skillfully took out a tape measure and skillfully opened the door. She began to look around for evidence of fraud. Just when she wanted to open the safe, there were footsteps outside the door. She hurriedly hid under the table. While setting up the chair, Fuji came in. She seemed to see something. She came straight over. She'd forgotten her scarf. Just then, she pulled out the chair, so she forgot her lipstick. After the Fuji left, she got a surprise from under the table. Just as she was leaving the room, a company executive stopped her in her tracks. Ju-yoon calmly said she came to ask for advice. Just as she was about to leave, the man stopped her. He said he could give her some experience too. I didn't realize there was a surprise on this trip, because the man is the treasurer of this company. The company's accounts were also in his hands. She used her beauty. She easily convinced him to open the account. The next day, she asked Hansen to disguise himself as a bank chief. She led him to mom's fake bank. Everything here is fake. Even the posters were just put up. At the same time, Ju-yoon went to a real bank. The man just took out his account information. Hansen immediately gave it to Ju-yoon. She opened the account without a hitch. Finally, Hansen gave the man a copy of the account. That's how it works. They managed to get hold of the crook's entire company's money operation. with tens of billions of dollars in the bank. Hansen wanted to transfer the money immediately, but Mi-suk stopped him. While they were talking, there was another $10 million. A few minutes later, Mi-suk was about to close the net. She realized that the account had been frozen. It turns out that Fuji has already found out everything, and Ju-yoon is waiting for a prison sentence. Luckily, Ju-yoon is only 17 years old. He was only sentenced to 1 year. A year has passed since then. Ju-yoon breathed in the fresh air outside. She threw off her jacket in style. Then she took out her cell phone and took a selfie. Then she changed the background to Paris Island. As soon as she posted the picture, she received a lot of invitations from rich people, but she went to a nearby restaurant. She ordered kimchi soup, but the owner offered her a piece of tofu. He said it's good for people who just got out of jail to eat tofu. And that's when Hansen came over. Apparently he wants to work with Ju-yoon again. The next day, Hansen gave her a license plate. He said it was her new identity. This time, if she can last a month, she'll be paid $10 million. After work that day, she had just arrived at the restaurant ready to eat. A man sat down opposite her. Ju-yoon was about to leave in disgust, but Jin-hwan stopped her. He didn't want anything else. He just wanted to eat the rest of her meal. Ju-yoon was attracted to his unique way of picking her up. They got to know each other quickly. They even left each other's numbers. When Ju-yoon got home, she couldn't help herself, but she didn't want to call, so she went to the store where she met today. That's when Jin-hwan appeared. He gave his umbrella to a passerby, just so he could share an umbrella with Ju-yoon. They arrived at the restaurant, but Jin-hwan seemed distracted. He dragged Ju-yoon to an alley. Their relationship was heating up fast. Ju-yoon didn't reveal her true identity. She lied about being an orphan. The next day, Jin-hwan disappeared. Ju-yoon was lying on the table looking at her cell phone. She waited until the end of the day without a single message. When she went downstairs, she saw Jin-hwan waiting with a bouquet of flowers, but Ju-yoon didn't want to talk to him. Jin-hwan said that the flowers were ordered from Holland. It would take some time. Eventually, Ju-yoon forgave him. On this day, Ju-yoon was helping out at her friend's barbecue restaurant, but he suddenly got a call from Jin-hwan. She lied that she was still working overtime at the office, but Jin-hwan was waiting for her downstairs. She got into a cab. She changed her clothes in the taxi. When she arrived at the office, she saw Jin-hwan's car, so she asked the driver to sound the horn to attract Jin-hwan's attention. Then she sat in the passenger seat of his car. She timed it perfectly. Then, Jin-hwan took Ju-yoon to a restaurant. It turns out he brought Ju-yoon to meet his parents. After meeting his parents, their relationship is developing rapidly. Soon after, Jin-hwan successfully proposed to Ju-yoon. The next day, she first came to the prison and told her father that he wanted her to get married. Then she came to her mother's to borrow money to buy a house. Even though everyone was against it, she decided to marry Jin-hwan. That day, the wedding was held as scheduled. She waited for Jin-hwan's arrival with great anticipation, but at the wedding, all the guests were gone. There was no sign of Jin-hwan. Her best friend came in and told her. It turns out it was all a fake. She's met a colleague. He's a veteran swindler. Ju-yoon went back to their matrimonial home. She couldn't have imagined that a marriage scam would happen to her. She thought back to when she first moved in. Everything was so sweet. She even gave Jin-hwan all her savings to support the family, and the two of them became a couple. But nowadays, everything seems so ridiculous. All she can do is to drink her sorrows away, and get herself drunk, and hope that when she wakes up in the morning, it was all just a dream. The next day, she was going to find out what happened. Even if she was cheated out of her marriage, she should know why. So she decided to start with Jin-hwan's company. She found his co-workers, but they didn't tell her anything. While she was looking for clues, the police found her. Ju-yoon came to the police station. The police said that on the day of the wedding, there was a car accident in the suburbs. The car and the people in it fell off a cliff. The people in the car were burned and unrecognizable. The police took out a wallet found at the scene. The ID card showed that it belonged to Jin-hwan. Then the police took her to identify the body. She looked at the tragedy in front of her. She still didn't want to accept the truth. She swore to the police that it wasn't her husband. But when she got home, she packed up her husband's belongings and gave them to the police for DNA comparison. The result was unexpected. The DNA showed a perfect match with the body. She was sad to help her husband with his funeral. However, there were more than one problem. First, she was told that her matrimonial home was a monthly rental, and the rent is due soon. Then she was approached by a debt collector. Her husband had borrowed money from loan sharks. As a wife, she should be obliged to help pay off the debt. After she got drunk, her emotions finally collapsed at that moment. The next day, the police found her again. They asked her to tell them everything she knew, because this was no ordinary car accident. According to the clues collected, the police suspected that her husband was cheating on her. This made Ju-yoon very angry. She warned the police not to speculate. After that, she just walked away. Ju-yoon wasn't willing to leave it at that. She decided to find out the cause of the accident. When she applied for her husband's death certificate, she found out that he also ran a detective agency. So she went to his detective agency. Then she saw someone who looked familiar. That's right. This is the female con artist Fuji, who put her in jail. She picked up a barbell and threw it at her. Then she went up and grabbed her by the hair. She was about to kill her with a pencil. An employee came in. She desperately tried to stop Ju-yoon. That's how Fuji also managed to escape. That night, she sneaked into the detective agency. When she opened the computer to check the data, but the computer was locked, so she used the technology she learned from her father to crack the password. She found out that the last client was Fuji. She asked Jing Hwan to help her find a man named Edward, so she followed Fuji to her place. She didn't realize that Fuji had already found her. The reason why they sat together, because they both wanted to find Edward. She asked Fuji to give her information about Edward to help her find him. Only by finding Edward could she solve the mystery of her husband. That's how it happened. Two women with a grudge worked together. The next day, Ju-yoon went to a mountain house based on her husband's last record. She took down a wooden sign and dug a hole. Then she went under the railing. She dodged the servants by lying on the grass. Then she skillfully avoided the bodyguards. But then a dog spotted her. The dog barked loudly at her. Ju-yoon got scared and ran away, and the dog kept chasing after her. At that moment, a man hiding behind a rock came out. The man seemed to know the dog well, and he's Ju-yoon's dead husband. Just after returning to the detective agency, she saw Fuji, who came to her door. She told Ju-yoon that she was Chairman Chwa's lover, and that she witnessed the chairman's murder. When she was about to be found by the killer, Edward saved her. Then he threatened her to open the safe. He took the account book that led to his death. It contained all of the syndicate's shady dealings. If they were released to the public, it would cause a riot in the society, and she would be hunted down and killed. So after Edward analyzed the pros and cons with her, she disguised herself as a poor person and left the country. And when she came back, she had become what she is now. But when she woke up that day, she didn't see Edward. She realized that all her savings had been swept away by him, and he was already on a plane to Sanya, leaving her frantic on the spot. That's why she called the detective agency, just to find Edward. They both want to find the man who abandoned them and ask for the truth. Go back to the time before Jing Hwan faked his death. Jing Hwan was pouring gasoline all over a dead man, and put a rope around the lever. Then he pulls it with all his might. The car speeds up and crashes over the railings and down the mountain, and then he took out his wallet and threw it off the cliff. He wants to make it look like he's dead, and the reason behind it all was because of Fuji. On this day, Fuji came to the detective agency. He threw him a large sum of money. He asked him to find Edward within a month. Jing Hwan swore that it would only take half a month. Then Jing Hwan opened the file to check. According to the clues on the information, he found Edward's place. He easily climbed over the fence, and then skillfully threw out the climber. Then he went to the second floor. Here, he discovered a secret. This notebook contains all the illegal transactions of the syndicate. If it gets out, it'll cause a riot in society. He hurriedly photographed all the evidence. That's when it happened. There was a commotion at the door. Edward seemed to realize what was happening. He took out his sword. He threw out his clothes to confuse the enemy. But when he came in, he found nothing. He thought he was too nervous. At the same time, Jing Hwan was hiding under the window. Just then, the climber suddenly broke. Edward rushed to open the window. He didn't know that Jing Hwan was hiding next to him. Jing Hwan escaped and gave the evidence to his partner for safekeeping, but he didn't realize that his partner would be killed. It turns out that Edward had already realized it. When he was heading to the wedding venue, a group of men in black blocked him. He was able to evade them with his athletic skills. When he returned to his partner's cabin, he found his partner dead. Despite his grief, he made a bold decision. He drove down a mountain road. He came to a bend in the road and braked. And that's how it started. Then he went back to his rented house. He cleaned up all his tracks. Then he took out his partner's hair, which he had prepared in advance, and put it on the bed. He did this to make everyone think that the man who died in the car accident was him, to protect Ju-yoon's safety from all the enemies. Another reason is to make the enemy think he's dead so they'll be less wary, so that he can carry out his revenge plan better. That night, he came to Edward's villa again. The man in front of him is the one who killed his partner. Hatred made him lose his mind. He accidentally stepped on a branch. This immediately alerted Edward. He immediately had his bodyguards surround the bush. But when he came to check, he didn't see anything unusual. He didn't know he was being watched from the shadows. Jing Hwan followed him all the way to the bar. He saw the other person he was meeting with. He immediately took out his cell phone and filmed it. But the next scene was a big disappointment for the man. On the other side, the gangster who collected the debt came to his door. Ju-yoon was not afraid. Just when she was about to fight with them, Hansen came out. It's obvious that the gangsters are afraid of Hansen. After Hansen's mediation, the gangsters promised not to come back again. At night, the police found Ju-yoon and told her husband's case has been closed. Since no new evidence was found, it was treated as an accidental death. Ju-yoon was furious. You're the ones who kept telling me that this case was full of doubts. Now you're closing the case hastily. Isn't this a joke? When she got home, she was lying on her bed. She recalled the short but happy time she had with her husband. They met when they shared a table. Everything was so ordinary, but it was destiny. They met again in the rain. By now, their faces favorites had already deepened in each other's hearts. They went to the night market together romantically, the first time they held hands, and that kiss in the alley that sealed their love has already made their feelings quickly warmed up. Whenever he was angry, he would patiently coax her, and that marriage proposal at the street stall where he made a promise of marriage. The 3 simple meals a day in a rented house may seem mundane, but to her now, it's something she'll never get, and she would never have imagined that her husband, who she thought had died in a car accident, was downstairs. He didn't dare to show up, because he doesn't want her to get involved. The next day, escorted by a gangster, she came to her husband's company. She decided to take over the detective agency. With all the people busy, detective agency is open for business again, and immediately took over the job. She decided to start with her husband's last job. According to the clues of the intelligence, the 2 women went straight to the destination. After eliminating the danger through binoculars, Ju-yoon skillfully dug a hole with a wooden sign. She got in with no trouble at all. They hid in the bushes and looked around. Then Ju-yoon went towards the gate, but the door was locked. After confirming that no one was inside, she pulls out her cell phone and calls her partner to come in, but Fuji is still scared. Ju-yoon smashed the door with a fire extinguisher. She looks at a half-open door. She tried to push the door, but she triggered a trap, and the end of the blocks was a bomb. She jumped over it. She was able to hold the blocks at the critical moment. Unexpectedly, the bomb continued to count down, and all this was seen by Edward. With an explosion, Ju-yoon was blown away. At that moment, Fuji, who was waiting outside the door, escaped. Ju-yoon was seriously injured. The fire in the room is getting hotter and hotter. She was about to be consumed by the fire. At that moment, a figure flashed through the smoke. It's Fuji, who came with a fire extinguisher. Maybe it's because of her conscience. She dragged Ju-yoon out of the fire with all her strength. This scene was also seen by Edward. They finally arrived at the hospital. While Ju-yoon was still in danger, a van arrived. A group of assassins were about to go up and kill them. When they found the hospital bed, they fled to the elevator. When the men in black found them, the elevator doors had already closed. They came to the parking lot, just after putting Ju-yoon away. Before Fuji could get in the car, the killer grabbed her by the hair. He slammed Fuji to the ground. Just as they were about to do it, Mystery Man arrived in time to delay the killer. Fuji escaped with Ju-yoon. On this day, Ju-yoon was ready to go home after recovering from her injuries, but she doesn't know that her dead husband is upstairs. Ju-yoon took out her key and opened the door. Inside the house, Jing-hwan also heard the commotion. When Ju-yoon enters the door, Jing-hwan dodged and hid. Ju-yoon also saw that the light in the house was on. That means someone must have come in. She hurriedly hid in the room. When Jing-hwan put on her helmet and was about to run away, Ju-yoon called out to him and asked who it was, but Jing-hwan didn't answer her. He turned around and fled the scene. Ju-yoon chased after him. She watched him run away from the scene. She looked at the surveillance camera on the wall. Then she pretended to be a cop. She checked the surveillance video. It's the mysterious man who saved her life. What was his purpose? In this regard, they had to reorganize their plan. This time, they planned to start with this man, follow him to the flower store. Ju-yoon, who was dressed up in a pretty dress, went in. The man was about to leave after buying the flowers. He saw Ju-yoon coming in. He stared straight at her. Then he pretended to be familiar with her. Ju-yoon also played along with him. As soon as they walked out the door, the man who couldn't wait asked her if she had a boyfriend. Ju-yoon said that she had just lost her love. The man saw his chance. He gave Ju-yoon the flowers he just bought. He also invited her to dinner. Ju-yoon also agreed to the man's invitation. The man doesn't know that the reason why Ju-yoon approached him. Ju-yoon approached him because he was her only clue to the truth. At the dinner table, Ju-yoon put 2 drops of LSD into the wine glass. Then she purposely complained that he took too long to go to the restroom. The man decided to apologize with a glass of wine. However, he was staring at the wine glass and seemed to notice something unusual. He thought the glass was dirty. Then he went to get another one. Unwilling to do so, Ju-yoon did it again. This time, he dripped it directly into the wine. The men filled their glasses. They were about to raise their glasses and drink together. The suspicious man put down his glass again. In order to assuage the man's suspicion, Ju-yoon said he could only drink a little. However, the bottle of wine was soon gone. But the man is still drunk. She remembered what Fuji said. He said that even an elephant can be knocked out with a single drop. While Ju-yoon was wondering, the man finally collapsed. Ju-yoon took out his cell phone and unlocked it, but he didn't notice his bracelet. After he was detected to be in a sleepy state, someone came to the hotel immediately. Ju-yoon didn't know the danger was approaching, but she also learned important information from her cell phone. It's true, they planned her husband's death. When they opened the door, Ju-yoon had transformed into a waitress. Then she managed to get away without a hitch. As soon as she got in the car, she complained about Fuji's drug. Then she went to Hansen with her doubts. And here she got the definitive answer. Her beloved husband had been lying to her. His identity was fake. His job was also fake. On the other hand, her husband just found out about Ju-yoon's identity. She's working in the same job as him. On this day, a mysterious woman came into the detective agency. She didn't say a word. She went straight into the office. She inserted a flash drive into the mainframe. Before Ju-yoon could realize who she was, 2 police officers came in. They arrested her for fraud. Just as she was about to be taken away, a black commercial car crashed into her. She would never have guessed that the person who saved her was her dead husband. Ju-yoon couldn't believe what she saw. The person she's been searching for is right in front of her. Jing-hwan didn't have time to explain. He hugged her and was about to leave. At that moment, she wanted to know why her husband ran away on the wedding day. Why he didn't come to her after he faked his death. She came to a corner. Jing-hwan uncuffed her. To his wife's disbelief, he didn't give any explanation. Then he turned around and left. He didn't want to put his wife in danger again. Unbeknownst to them, the other party had made a new plan based on the video of their escape. But by the time they found the motorcycle, the couple had already fled to a hotel. Ju-yoon asked him why he didn't attend the wedding, and Jing-hwan asked her why she lied. That's how it was. 2 people who didn't trust each other left each other. Ju-yoon crouched in a corner and cried. And Jing-hwan finally chased after him. Maybe it's the reunion after a long time. Both of them couldn't give up on each other again. The next day, Ju-yoon realized that she was arrested because she was framed by a mysterious person. She vowed to find out who was behind it. What she doesn't realize is that the man she's looking for is plotting against her. He was investigating everyone around her. Every move they made was under their control. They took control of her mother. They made her call Ju-yoon to come over. When Ju-yoon was about to arrive, the mother took the opportunity to hit the glass with a bottle. Ju-yoon outside heard the noise. He turned around and ran. However, the killers had already attacked her from both sides. At that moment, Hansen arrived. After he took out the assailants, he was attacked, but Hansen was prepared for it. Ju-yoon called his friend as soon as he was out of danger, but Edward overheard the conversation. He set up an ambush, but he waited for her husband. While Jing-hwan was being beaten to death, Hansen arrived in time. He took care of a few fighters with ease. Hansen is not only good at kung fu, Hansen's acting is also excellent. In order to save Ju-yoon, he crashed his car into a police car. Then he boldly went to the police station to turn himself in. After tearfully apologizing, even the police felt sorry for him. On this day, Fuji came to the funeral parlor. She unscrewed the screws, and the person in the picture was herself. She took out the urn. She opened the lid and pulled out a notebook. Because of this note, she was hunted down and killed. And now, she's not going to let it go. She's going to fight back. 14 years ago, she was born into a good family. Whenever she left the house, someone would change her shoes. She traveled in high-end carriages. People looked up to her. She enjoyed being admired. But now she can't show her true colors every day. And so, several of Edward's enemies got together. They're planning to join forces. It turns out that Edward's goal was to rig the presidential race. So they decided to start with this man. The Fuji was holding a cup of ice cream, and he poured it over the man's head. The man was about to get angry, but when he saw that he was a beautiful woman, he became friendly again. At that moment, Fuji's bodyguard appeared. He immediately stepped forward to give a warning, but that was part of her plan, and she managed to get the man's contact information. Soon she was waiting for a call from the man, and she was interested in the man's authority. She asked him to help her find Edward's childhood home, so she drove to the address he gave her. Just as she walked up to the door, the dog smelled something strange inside the house, and Edward sensed something was wrong. He saw Fuji at the door on the security camera. Fuji looked through a crack to see what was going on inside the house. Then he took out his lipstick. He left a message on the door, and then turned around and left. Edward saw the Fuji leaving. He opened the table in a panic. So there was a basement here. He came to his own basement. There was a pile of cash, but that was not enough to fulfill his ambition. Next, he's going to manipulate the presidential campaign. He's going to put Senator Yu in power. That way, he can consolidate his dark power forever. But they still have a strong rival, Senator Kwon. He sprayed water on his face and pretended to sweat. Then he puts his hands in the dirt. Then he takes a selfie, a photo of him experiencing the people's feelings. Once the photo was taken, Congressman Kwon's approval ratings have skyrocketed. He crushed his rivals and stayed at the top of the list. And just then, he received a mysterious phone call. Jing-hwan said he could provide information about his opponent so that he could win the election, and the other side saw their support crushed. They found a scapegoat. They sent him to the police station to pretend to turn himself in to bring down the other side's vote. As soon as he entered the police station, the mole immediately dialed Ju-yoon's number. Although she's a wanted criminal, but now she's a police officer with her great acting skills. She came to the police station with honor. She stopped the man who was pretending to turn himself in. At this moment, she's the head of the task force. Even the real police officers passing by didn't recognize their disguise. They took the man away immediately. When the man questioned her, Ju-yoon lied that she was taking him to a special department. As soon as he got in the car, The man sensed something was wrong. The impatient Hansen put a plastic bag on his head. The three of them went to Ju Yun's mother's office. This is the so-called special department. Seeing that the man doesn't want to tell the truth, Mi-suk threatened him. The man was scared and said he was being threatened. That's why he turned himself in as a fake spy. That way, he was able to bring them down. He never knew that the person he wanted to frame was right in front of him. If the police don't see the man who turned himself in, the other side will definitely make a move. The most important thing now is to send this person away. When they arrived at the pier, there was a long line in front of them. Just then, Hansen saw that the other side had sent someone. He immediately told Ju Yun. Ju Yun went straight to the front of the line. He bribed his way to the top of the line. But as soon as they finished the formalities, they were being chased. Naturally, Hansen will take care of this situation. Watching the men board the boat, Ju Yun's heart finally dropped. At that moment, Jing Huan called. They met with Assemblyman Quan. Ju Yun also made a deal with Assemblyman Quan with a cell phone she swindled from a fake spy. She also managed to get rid of her identity as a wanted criminal. That night, Ju Yun and Fuji discussed their plans. Then Fuji put on her makeup. Now she's going to play the role of an environmental advocate. First, she hired a few temporary workers to protest under the other company's building, and then she released her identity as an environmental advocate. But everything on the radio is fake. Even the host is fake. The purpose was to throw out bait to attract opponents. And that's exactly what happened. Her subordinates immediately came to invite her. Fuji lured her with a secret account book. He successfully invaded the enemy area without much effort. Looking at his former lover, Edward had a shocked look on his face, but he pretended not to recognize him. Due to the face of the senator, he didn't dare to question him face to face. When Fuji came out from the toilet, he pulled her into the room, then asked her what she wanted, and it was Congressman Yu who was the main attraction. Turns out he's running for president. The reason why he's working with them is because there's a very good chance that both of them know the whereabouts of the ledger, and he's determined to get it. At the same time, on the other side, Ju Yun has transformed into a golf girl. She easily broke away from the team. She went on a secret operation alone. When she tried to escape, two men in black blocked her way. Seeing that they recognized her eavesdropping behavior, Jing Huan immediately became unsettled. When she was about to break into the house, the woman came out. She took Jing Huan to the room where Ju Yun was being held. Another mysterious woman appeared. It turns out she's the daughter of the head of the GK organization. Her purpose is to prevent Assemblyman Yu from being elected president. That's how it is. The three of them tacitly united their fronts. They now need to find the mysterious account book. Whoever gets it will easily take down their rivals. Congressman Yu is unaware that he's been set up. It turns out that all the conversations were recorded, and the three of them didn't even know it. They fell into another trap. On this day, Fuji met with a famous Korean dance instructor. She asked her to take Assemblyman Yu's daughter as a student. When she and Assemblyman Yu went to visit her daughter, the students were taking pictures of them, and when the photos came out, with his fatherly image, he easily surpassed his opponent. Fuji is still obsessed with his revenge, not realizing that he was just a stepping stone in their campaign. And so, Congressman Yu began a fierce attack. They released their secret ledger, which contained records of bribes taken by opposing congressmen. As soon as the report came out, his approval ratings dropped rapidly, and the operation behind it was all thanks to Fuji. Because she has the accounts that control the life and death of others, she helped Senator Lau outmaneuver his rivals. She can also make her convinced to canvass for him, and then arrange a show to understand the people's feelings. Greet your neighbors, experience the snacks at street stalls, work as a social worker in a nursing home, and tell stories to kindergarten children. They put on a full show, but they couldn't beat a photo of their rivals. Rep Kwan held a press conference to present evidence of Rep Yu's corruption. When they saw the report, they couldn't stand it. They poisoned Senator Kwan's water. When Jing Huan arrived, Congressman Kwan died of poison a long time ago. They used their power to blame Jing Huan for the senator's death. Jing Huan realized something was wrong and tried to escape, but he didn't know his route was already known. They called the police to arrest him, but this is only their first step. Next, they're going to spread the news about Assemblyman Leah's fiancé, and then secretly take care of the woman, so that he can use the news of his fiancé's death to gain more sympathy votes. On the other side, Fuji was surrounded by a couple of thugs. When she got home, she pulled out a gun from her bag to defend herself. After wounding them in the process, she was in a hurry to escape when she ran into Edward, but this time he was here to help. Knowing that they've been set up, the men get together. They analyzed the situation. Each of them handed over the evidence they had in their hands. One by one, they eliminated the person who leaked the information. And finally, the manager of the hotel was identified. She was the one who poisoned Assemblyman Kwan, and the culprit behind the scene is just as they suspected. It's Mr. Kim from the GK group. Just after getting the evidence from the manager, the next moment, Edward was assassinated. Fuji couldn't believe the scene in front of him. On the other hand, Jing Huan and Ju Yun also received information. They found this suspicious person. They were about to go after him. A car came out of nowhere and hit Jing Huan, and just when he was about to be killed, Hansen showed up just in time. Although Jing Huan was seriously injured and hospitalized, but at least he survived. That's why Ju Yun was sent out this time. She met with Mr. Kim, then she presented the evidence of their embezzlement, but the next moment, it didn't work. The arrogant Mr. Kim told the truth about everything, but Ju Yun recorded it all, and he was naturally arrested. In addition to the evidence of killing the congressman, Jing Huan also sacrificed himself to become a tainted witness. He revealed all the bad things he did for him back then, although Mr. Kim was duly punished. But Jing Huan also spent a few years in jail. But with Ju Yun's frequent visits, his time in jail wasn't too hard. The day of his release came soon. Ju Yun dashed over to him. All the years of longing were in this hug. The two of them finally came together.